Good afternoon, members of the press corps, guests and friends who are joining us via live stream. Durud bar shoma va khosh amadin. We had a beautiful moment just before starting this press conference of a wonderful rainbow that lit up the sky. So we remember the spirit of 10-year-old Kian Pir Falak, who was shot indiscriminately by regime forces. And he always referred to God as God of the rainbows. So we feel his presence, and I'm very blessed to have you all here together. Before I formally begin, I have some good news and bad news. The good news is, did you know that Iranian women have won the prestigious Sakharov Prize and Nobel Peace Prize? Both celebrated just this week. The bad news is that the regime of the Islamic Republic banned the recipients and their families from traveling to receive their prize, while their officials travel and walk freely here in Geneva at the 2023 World Forum of Refugees. And the worst news, more tragic, is the fact that 19-year-old child bride Samira Sabzian is at imminent risk of execution by the regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran. She was supposed to be executed early this morning, but because of international pressure, they have not executed her today, but tomorrow's a different day. My name is Nazanin Afshin-Jam. I'm a human rights activist, and I will be chairing this press conference today. I'm here with a select group of experts, advocates, and victims of the brutal regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran. We are all from different backgrounds and political affiliations, but we are united in our disdain for the regime and carry real hope and dream for a free, democratic Iran. We, sitting here, are just a small representation of a grassroots coalition of over 70 Iranian diaspora groups and network of hundreds of independent Iranian activists. And we can confidently express that we also reflect the voices of a vast majority of Iranians in Iran when we say we are appalled by the presence of the regime delegation from the Islamic Republic of Iran here in Geneva. We believe, given their atrocious human rights record and their contribution to the refugee problem, it is astounding that they would be given the audacity, they would have the audacity to participate in the Global Refugee Forum. It is true that once upon a time, Iran was a bastion of inclusion and diversity. Some 2,500 years ago, the founding father of the Persian Empire, Cyrus the Great, stood for values well before his time, when he exhibited not only tolerance, but compassion for exiled groups. There was a time when Iran was graciously receiving refugees. However, in the past 44 years, since the Islamic Revolution, we have seen nothing but brutality, intolerance, injustice, and a prejudice system for refugees seeking refuge in Iran, namely the Afghan people. Our panel of experts and victims of this regime will attest to the fact that inside Iran's borders, the regime treats Afghan refugees as third-class citizens. Their movement is heavily restricted and health considerations negligent or non-existent. This includes beatings, detention in unsanitary and inhumane conditions, coerced payments, and deportation without due process. Why third-class citizen? Because this brutal regime treats its own citizens as second-class citizens, especially its women living under a gender apartheid system. The Islamic Republic of Iran has an appalling record of human rights abuses, including executing children, persecuting ethnic, religious, and gender minorities who are fleeing out of the country in droves as refugees, causing Iran to be ranked highest in brain drain among developing countries, according to the International Monetary Fund. And according to UNHCR, the number of new asylum applications made globally by Iranians in 2022 rose 44% compared to the previous year. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the leading state sponsor of terror, funding proxy terrorist groups to instigate wars and instability, causing an exodus of migrants in neighboring countries, including here in Europe, causing major economic and security problems inside its borders. And this regime dares attend the World Forum on Refugees, and some of our world leaders of free societies dare to shake their hands, engage in hostage diplomacy, make prisoner deals, and create a precedent for the cycle to continue where the regime detains innocent foreign nationals to be used as pawns. In short, the delegation of the Islamic Republic of Iran should not be welcomed here in Switzerland or the United Nations. They have nothing to contribute in the area of refugee issues other than being one of the biggest enablers of the refugee crisis in the world. We have a message to our own representatives from Canada, the United States, Germany, Switzerland, and the other countries that the world is represented by this coalition. Think twice before extending your hand, shaking hands with a regime with so much blood on its hands. Let us not forget that this year alone, they killed over 600 peaceful protesters, including 71 children, arbitrarily arrested and imprisoned over 20,000 peaceful protesters, and tortured, raped, and blinded hundreds of others. The male representatives of the free world should actually think more than twice. I say this because the regime officials refuse to shake hands of their female colleagues and counterparts. At the very least, show some solidarity with female diplomats who are ignored and discriminated against by the officials of the regime. Cultural relativism has no place when it comes to the abuse of human rights and dignity. Think twice before you meet and lend legitimacy to a tyranny that morally and politically does not represent its almost 90 million population and almost 10 million people in the diaspora. By legitimizing a tyranny, you consequently delegitimize liberty. Think twice before adding another indelible stain on the institution of the United Nations. Remember, this regime misuses UN global forums to delegitimize human rights values and erode public trust in the United Nations. Look at their track record. The regime manipulates every UN forum to amplify misinformation and fallacies that divert attention from the United Nations' focus on human rights and violations in Iran. We here reflect the face of Iran and freedom-loving Iranians, the ones who believe and fight for the revolutionary cry, woman, life, freedom. We stand for the aspiration of the Iranian people for human rights, freedom, and welcoming treatment for its most vulnerable groups and individuals, including refugees. The Death Committee president of the Islamic Republic canceled his trip last minute yesterday due to the danger of being arrested and prosecuted for crimes against humanity. Half our battle has already been won. However, his foreign minister, Minister of Interior, and other tyrannical officials are present. So are we. To refute their public diplomacy effort by shifting away the attention to the status of the people of Iran and their cry for freedom. You see, the world recognizes their nefarious nature, and those who commit human rights violations at the IRGC are acting as a terrorist entity. Many Western countries have sanctioned individuals. They can't come and go as freely as they used to. So they use platforms like the United Nations, where they have diplomatic immunity, to show that it is business as usual. They take the opportunity to have bilateral meetings and shake hands and take smiling pictures with other politicians. Do not be fooled by their attempt to manipulate public opinion and propagate their narrative. What was the result of 18 months of nuclear negotiations with them? Nothing but fallacies. What was the result of their commitment on the improvement of the rule of law? Nothing but repression and anarchy. What was the result of any agreement with them on the improvement of good governance? Nothing but mis and disinformation. That is why we are here, to counter their false narrative. If you believe in fundamental human rights and do not just say you do out of habit or platitude, then we plead with you. Do not shake the blood-soaked hands of this regime. If you do shake their hands, you may as well be kicking the stool right under the next one in line to be executed. Stand on the right side of history and stand with us.